Is the new 2025 Subaru Crosstrek Limited the best family and off-road SUV? Last year we got a full refresh, 2 different engine options, 5 different trims. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and I'm going to go over some pros and cons. The problem that I have with the Crosstrek and compared against the competition. The front fascia was reworked last year, and it integrates into steering response, LED headlights, and daytime runnings. That's standard on all 5 trims. Now the fog lights, that's going to become standard when you go up to the sport trim. It's going to have the hexagonal shape when you're going into the wilderness trim, so I like that each trim kind of has its own unique flair to it. It will also increase ground clearance to 9.3 inches, whereas all the Subarus are going to be at 8.7 inches of clearance. Underneath the hood will change once you get into the sport trim. It starts as a standard 2.0 liter 4-cylinder, but we have the 2.5 liter Boxer 4-cylinder that has 30 more horsepower than the base and 33 pound-feet of torque more. That's giving us a combined of 182 horsepower with 178 pound-feet of torque paired to a linear-tronic CVT transmission, which will mimic an 8-speed automatic transmission when it's going through the gear ratios, achieving 27 mpgs for the city, 33 mpgs for the highway. Towing on all trims is at 1,500 pounds, except for the wilderness. That's at 3,500 pounds. 17-inch wheel is standard, and that goes into the premium. The sport gets an 18-inch wheel as well as the limited. And going into the wilderness, we'll have a 17-inch wheel with all-terrain tires, dark gray finish on the side view mirrors that have the integrated turn signal for the premium, but it will skip the sport going into the limited trim. Raised roof rails so you can put tie downs, which Subaru is known to do this, which makes it easier for this off-roadsy vehicle. And that's the first reason why I would pick this over any of the competition, because Honda, Toyota, Mazda, Hyundai, none of them have the capabilities of this, especially at that price point. X mode, which optimizes the engine output and transmission ratio to increase the symmetrical all-wheel drive system that enhances the VDC system. That reduces individual wheel spin, and that helps with traction, which is on the Sport, the Limited, and the Wilderness models, including the dual function X mode with deep snow and mud. You have hill descent and active torque vectoring with 4-wheel independent suspension that's raised. With windshield wiper de-icer and heated side view mirrors, that's going to start as an option on the premium trim. Going up the tier, it becomes standard. The rear will have the C-structure tail lights, and they put the mountain pattern for your trunk scuff plate, and it goes into the interior with a little Easter egg. The lower gets a diffuser. When you go into the wilderness, it's going to be a little bit more raised, and it looks more pronounced in the back. Because we got the refresh last year, I think that Subaru nailed it for that off-roadsy slash everyday variant. I mean, let me know your thoughts on that. The problem that I have with the Crosstrek is once you start ticking features, the price goes over the wilderness trim, in which that is going to have more amenities standard. So why would you even option a vehicle underneath that? Quick release going into 19.9 cubic feet. The wilderness will be exactly 20 cubic feet. With a privacy cover, you have to switch the light on here. Also have cup holders here on both sides, and underneath the floor gets a spare tire. Because I'm tall, I'm going to just pull the tabs right here to split fold the rear bench at the 40-60 split. That's going to max cargo to 54.7 cubic feet. Otherwise, you have to go inside. Whereas the Wilderness will get 0.2 cubic feet more. The key fob for the Crosstrek. 10-way power seat adjustment. Leather seats, heated front seats. You'll have the 2-tone, so I'll have that orange, the contrast stitch. Heated is an option on the premium, and it starts going up to the tier. The base will not be able to option it. Power seat adjustments start on the sport trim. Cloth seats is standard, as well as manual seat adjustment for the front occupants. And the Wilderness will have the StarTech weatherproof seating. The interior last year got the refresh, so we have a whole new dashboard layout. Let's fire it up. Dashboard is going to be flat, 4-speaker standard, 6 speakers start on the premium trim. Harman Kardon upgraded sound system, we have that. That also includes the moon roof and the navigation with the Starlink 11.6-inch touch screen. Now you can option it without the navigation. So you can have either just the moonroof and the speakers or all three. I would suggest all three. Dual climate control is standard on all trims, which is always nice. Put it into reverse and we get a reverse camera with trajectory that does expand out. And we have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM, streaming Bluetooth audio with the pinch and the swipe with My Subaru and Sirius XM Travel Link. Wireless charging pad is an option on all trims. USB A and C port will start on the premium trim. It illuminates, otherwise you will not get the C. Leather on the shifter and on the steering wheel start on the sport trim. Multi-function. We get the contrast stitch in orange, 4.2 TFT display that can go through an array of different content. That's standard on all trims. Gloss black around the shifter, 12-volt charger, a little storage for another cell phone. Soft to touch opens up into a deep storage pocket. It is just pushed back a little bit more so than I would like. If you're tall, it's not a problem. It's an armrest, but if you're short, you can see what I mean. And Subaru EyeSight. They fixed this. You can actually put your hand in between it to move the rear view mirror. As for leg space, the front occupants is not going to have an issue. There isn't any pass-through or any sleeve of storage. Headroom, and I'm at 6'3". Door panel and dashboard configured together nicely. You get the round effect that wraps around the whole front of the vehicle. And you have this like carbon fiber look with the orange stitch, soft to touch where it needs to be, one touch up and down for the front windows with a medium-sized storage pocket and a beverage holder carved out. For the back seats, this is the opening that you have to fit two more with the cup holders and armrests. The center has two USB ports. Storage behind the passenger seat only. Leg space, not going to be too much of an issue, nor is butt or shoulder space sitting on this side. Door panel is going to be stripped of that contrast stitch and all the soft materials. It's all plastic. Software needs to be here with a smaller size storage pocket sliding into the center. Feet space isn't an issue. Butt, leg, and shoulder space starts to become compromised a little bit. Headroom is actually not too bad for my height, and sliding over here, headroom becomes a little bit more so. So you sit up a little bit more in the center, and also you have this here, which can be annoying for the passenger on the right side, but that can be removed. 8.7 inches of clearance, 30 horsepower more than the base engine, 33 pound-feet of torque more, giving us 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but all the vehicles don't weigh that much difference. I mean, you're only increasing about 70-ish pounds from the base engine to the limited tier, adding some aesthetics, and going into the wilderness will add about 10-15 pounds curb weight. Lineartronic CVT transmission, it will mimic an 8-speed automatic transmission in the shift patterns. Let's see how well she goes. It gets up to speed quick enough. For an off-roadsy vehicle, you're expecting to hear exterior noise coming in, and you hear quite a bit of it. It's a little box lifted up with that four-wheel independent suspension. Visibility is great though. I mean, it's nothing like this Suburban in front of us, but because of the clearance, I literally can see everything around me. So safety's taken care of, as well as Subaru EyeSight, which I like how they have moved the rear view mirror just a little bit so you can actually put your fingers and adjust it, because in the prior gen, it was kind of tight to do so. It's going to take me to some pros and cons, starting off with the pros, which you heard quite a bit of them, but for a vehicle that comes standard with symmetrical all-wheel drive, once you get into the three different trims, like we were saying on the exterior with the X-Drive mode, that also helps with traction control with the VCD. I mean, there's a lot going on the exterior of this vehicle to keep the vehicle planted, whether you're going incline or decline, in the snow or off-road, and this is a vehicle that can tackle it. As for the length and the width, you don't really have too much there. It's a wheelbase of just around 105 inches. Seat comfort isn't bad. It's going to be a little bit more firm, but again, it's an off-roadsy type of vehicle. As for the suspension itself, you don't really feel any of the imperfections in the road. It does a great job in the sense of soaking up most of the imperfections, but at a low speed, you will feel quite a bit of the imperfections in the road. But it's also to be expected with an off-roadsy vehicle. Some cons is going into the back, there isn't really a lot of storage. Everything is utilized through the Starlink 11.6-inch touchscreen, and if you go base trim, you get two 7-inch screens, which this is 2025. They still offer an actual key as well when you go base. Just something to consider, because I personally think at this point, we shouldn't even be offering those things. But let me know your thoughts on that. For a tall person, your knees will be sitting up in the air. There isn't any cushion extensions to help with that. There is plenty of seat adjustments, and I like that we have heated seats, and you can option that going into lower tiers, but it is not something you can get on the base trim. But I wish that the seats were a little bit larger. I understand it's a smaller vehicle, but still, it just would make it easier for a long commute. I would go for the Wilderness, because at this price point, you might as well tick the box for that, and you're going to get the navigation, and you're going to get the StarTech weather repellent seats, which I think is awesome. It feels just like the leather seats, but you don't have to worry about anything when you're doing those off-road capability. Which takes me to the second reason why I would pick the Crosstrek, is it's enough space to fit the family. You have more than enough cargo capacity. Every vehicle can option the wireless charging pad, so you don't necessarily have to go up different tier levels like you would in Honda or Toyota. They just give it to you. But going back to some more cons, they don't offer a hybrid still. Turn radius at more or less a stop point is actually pretty good, about 2 lanes. Let's rock and roll. I like that the Lineartronic CVT transmission shifts like an 8-speed automatic transmission, but I'm not a huge fan of the CVT transmissions. You do have to do more service for the vehicles in order to maintain the longevity. So every 30,000 mile-ish, you need to actually flush the fluid in order to keep these things lasting long and as optimal as possible. I like that you can run 87 fuel, because when you get into Mazda and you add the turbo, you will not be able to do so. But then when you go into that variant, you're going to be spending over $40,000. So this kind of slots in at good pricing. But like I was saying on the exterior, adding features like you have to add the Harman Kardon upgraded sound system. Some of these things, once you get into a limited tier or going into the Wilderness, I feel it should be standard. Considering this is 25, we've already done a refresh. We still don't have a full digital gauge reader, which I'm okay with that personally, but some people don't like it. There's still a lot of glitch on the Starlink touchscreen infotainment, and the response time to it can take a little bit longer than it should. And even though you have to use the infotainment screen for everything, the steering wheel has a lot going on still, which it could be a little bit more seamless. And the third reason why I would pick the Crosstrek is this is just as capable as most Jeep Wranglers at a fraction of the price. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like. And I'd like to thank Subaru Lakeland for giving us this 2025 Subaru Crosstrek Limited for our car review.